Today I've got my hands on Scythe's premium flagship CPU cooler, the Scythe Ninja 5. Designed to rival the Noctua NHD 15 and the Be Quiet Dark Rock Pro 4, but at a much lower price point, making the Ninja 5 an amazing value as long as it can drop temperatures as well as the other big boys. And today, I'm gonna find out if it can or does. Scythe started back in 2002, quickly expanded, and became one of the most well-known makers of PC cooling products in the industry. You, like me, have probably at least heard of Scythe, seen a video concerning one of their products or something for sale, and wondered what was going on. And I definitely am excited to give that a try today. You can tell that their aim is to make a top-tier cooler with very, very impressive cooling ability and to make it affordable for those wanting to get into this space. There's not a lot of companies that are making these giant PC CPU coolers. A lot of that probably is because they don't fit in a lot of cases. That being said, this is an improvement on the Ninja 4. The new version offers 2 fans instead of 1, better memory compatibility, and a new mounting system. The Ninja 5 has been on the market for quite a while, either late 2018, early 2019, but it is $59.99, and I like to think that they've had it out for so long without improving it because it's just so good and apparently looks so good. If you want to compare those prices, the Noctua NHD 15 is going to be $90, and the Be Quiet Dark Rock Pro 4 is also just about at $90. So for $60, and even on Amazon right now, a 5% coupon, that's quite a big difference in price. Now this thing is pretty heavy. It's apparently very easy to install, and these fans are supposedly quite powerful and quite silent, and they are 120 millimeter. Try and run silent on my... No, sir. We don't run silent, we get loud. Because loud means power, loud means you're staying nice and cool. Everything with looks is very subjective. I personally think these look pretty darn good, but objectively, the build quality is awesome. I've got so many 120 millimeter fans that just feel very flimsy, especially the ones that might come with your PC case. I love it when they include these little screwdrivers. Oh, getting such a collection. The Be Quiet one I think is better. I don't believe this is magnetic. Nope, it's magnetic. This does look like something that someone wearing coveralls would definitely keep in their pocket and have on them always. Well, I guess I will too. Yes, sir. I need a name patch on this thing. If anyone has any suggestions for that, with this kit, we're gonna have everything we need to install on either Intel or AMD with these mounting brackets. We've got all the pieces for it. Simple stuff, we all know what comes with it. I hope this thermal paste is good. I will use it. Typically, I'm gonna use my own thermal paste, not anything that comes with products, because I have gotten the CPU heatsink stuck to a cooler, and I had to use a heat gun to get it off, and it was horrible. This definitely does feel more solid than the Shadow Rock 3 that I've got over here, and they're about in the same price point with that discount from Amazon. It's just much sturdier, even just the fins, the base. We've got what looks like 6 heat pipes. You've got little bumps coming out on the top for cooling magic. The top looks pretty good, so it's gonna be in a system like that. Very cool, very cool. I don't know, it's not that fancy. There's not that much to show. I like the simplicity. Let's go ahead and get this thing installed into this PC right here. We're gonna pop the Shadow Rock out. I'm gonna do a real quick explanation, throw it in, get it installed, show that process very, very quick. Then I'm gonna run benchmarks, and I'm gonna compare it to both of the Be Quiet coolers that I've already done that are similar, as well as, I'll throw up all the benchmarks. Let's see how it compares. For this test, we're running on the 3900X with the Extreme 4 X570 motherboard, 64 gigs of RAM. It's gonna be at stock settings, just with overclock mode enabled on the motherboard using Precision Boost. To begin the benchmarks, let's start with the IDA64. This is gonna put 100% load on the CPU, testing out how well it does over an extended period of time running at full blast. The Ninja 5 hit a high of 65 degrees, and this was boosting up to 4117 megahertz. In comparison, the Shadow Rock 3 hit 64 degrees as its max, and 4092 megahertz boosted. These are very, very comparable. The Ninja 5 hit a little bit higher boost clock, but did go up 1 degrees. Ultimately, I would say that these just completely cancel out and are pretty much the exact same. On Cinebench, we hit a score of 7001 with a high of 74 degrees, and the Shadow Rock 3 at 6826 with a high of 73 degrees. Admittedly, all three of these hit pretty much the same score. This is all within 1 to 3% of each other. with the Ninja 5 being the highest. The Ninja 5 is definitely hanging with the synthetic so far. On 3D Mark, the Ninja 5 hit a score of 67.12 with again a high of 74 degrees, and the Shadow Rock 3 hit a high of 65.97 with 58 degrees being the max. I ran the test a few times just to see why we had such a disparity in the temperatures compared to all the other tests. It was the same across the board. The Ninja 5 does have a little bit higher of a score here. There's just a significant difference of like 16 degrees. But most importantly, let's head over to games where we've got Warzone and Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Both of these games running at medium to high settings. Warzone hit 88 FPS average with a high of 59 degrees, and the Shadow Rock 3 hit the exact same 64 FPS with 57 degrees as the high. Now this one's pretty easy to compare. The Ninja 5 was quite a bit better than both the Shadow Rock 3 and the Dark Pro 4, which had the exact same score somehow. The FPS went up considerably. That would be what, 24 FPS on average, while also staying cooler. Kind of interesting to see how much better it is in gaming than it is in the synthetic benchmarks, which isn't the gaming more important? Odyssey showed less improvement with 81 FPS average and 64 degrees as the max, and the Shadow Rock 3 hit 77 FPS with 61 degrees being the max. Now, if you look at both of these, they actually correlate pretty well. The Scythe getting a little bit faster, but getting a little bit warmer, while the Shadow Rock getting, a little bit less FPS, but staying a little bit cooler. But I would say the Ninja 5 performed largely better than especially the Shadow Rock 3, which is a little bit cheaper. I'd say about 5 to 10% both on performance in the games and the temperature in the games that you're running. Definitely a little bit better. The Scythe Ninja 5 is as quiet, actually I would say if not more quiet. I was tremendously impressed with the two fans. The build quality on them definitely works out because it is incredibly quiet. I definitely couldn't hear it over any of the other parts. It was impressive to say the least. Scythe has included this very helpful piece of paper that has install for Intel and AM4, and we should have every single piece that we need to install on this board. It doesn't explicitly say exactly the hardware that we need in there, but it appears we just need 4 spacers, 4 long screws, and the 2 adapters to go on top. It is kind of weird that they put all of the hardware in one bag and didn't separate AM4 and the Intel pieces from each other. However, I don't think anyone's gonna get really too confused on that. Outer one is gonna be the AM3, the inside one is gonna be AM4. Yeah, so we want the adapter notches to be on the outside, away from the CPU. We drop these down on here like this. Oh, that's smooth, that's butter smooth, boys. Then as always, you don't wanna go over tight. Just kind of till it stops. That's gonna be just tight enough on there. Of course, we gotta take that off of the contact point. And now we can see that this little bar is built on already, which is really nice. That is not the case on the Be Quiet coolers. So the bar is going to connect right over the top here, and it's gonna screw into these adapter brackets. We have 2 options. We can either go this way or this way. However, it doesn't appear like it's gonna matter at all, which means it's time for some thermal paste compound material. All right, so you gotta push down with a little bit of pressure to get it to actually stick into there. We've got this one side. With this tiny little head, you gotta really give it some force and keep your fingers real tight on here. This is gonna cover up my pretty RAM completely, which defeats the whole purpose of what at the time, which actually might still be very expensive, Trident Royal Z RAMs. So where we want these to hook in is going to be on the opposite from where it's gonna connect, and then it goes straight down onto it. I think it just really has to stretch more than I'm used to. With the tallness of this RAM in particular, it's just gonna be that way. We actually can't sit flush on this side either because of the IO plate. That's kind of frustrating. I'm not a big fan of that one right there. We're gonna use the included fan splitter, and we're going to put both of the fans into it, and we're gonna use it on the CPU 1 fan header. These are your CPU 1 is what you're gonna wanna run it on almost always. And it's almost always gonna be located in the top right here. Here's where a really big decider is gonna be. So it is considerably shorter than either the Shadow Rock 3 or the Dark Pro 4 or the Noctua option, which I haven't got to run. It definitely does give you more room to work with when you're needing that space clearance for your case, putting that front door panel on. You definitely have a trade-off though, because that also gives you less clearance from the board up to the fans on the side. I ran into the problem where the IO cover on my board was running too high, and this might be a problem because I don't think it's particularly all that tall. The same with the RAM. I would say the RAM is a little bit taller than the average set. Even with the other RAM that I have, it's definitely not gonna be able to sit flush and not enough to get the door on. For the Lee & Lee dynamic case that I have, I don't get nearly enough clearance to even attempt to put the door on. And the IO side is even worse. There's no way this is gonna sit flush. I just would have to keep the door off, and I kind of don't like how that looks either. But to also be fair, I also have no chance of getting either of the Be Quiet coolers into there while being able to put the door on. And I mean, at least the fans on that can sit flush. These are sticking out looking kind of goofy. Another standout was that the Ninja 5 did not perform as well as either of the Be Quiet coolers in the synthetic loads. And remember, that's the Dark Pro 4, which is about 90 bucks, and then the Shadow Rock 3, which I picked up for I think about 50 bucks. But it definitely was lower performing than the cheaper cooler. However, how important is that really? You know, we're not spending hours and hours every day running synthetic benchmarks, or well, I wouldn't recommend it, and I don't know what you're gaining out of that. But in games, that's where the big important is gonna be. That's gonna be running it over time. In IDA 64, it still did pretty well, under load, full blast, but in games, I was very, very impressed with, one, how quiet it stayed, even keeping up with the other big boys. It showed really good performance in FPS. The temperature stayed definitely right there within the range of the other two, and sometimes just impressively lower. A very, very good sign for anybody considering running this and doing some video gaming. I think that covers it pretty well. Overall, build quality's good, the fans are impressive, the style is gonna depend on you. I do like the style. I think the Be Quiet are very nice looking as well. Noctua, maybe it's not the best for editing, but for gaming, I think that is definitely a recommendation that can be made. I like it. Good job, Scythe. Glad that I finally got to try it and see what all the kerfuffle was about. It's gonna keep the others on their toes and push us all to better performance, better products coming out at more competitive pricing. So seeing something like this is always great. Definitely consider them as an option when you're looking at that price range of coolers, or if you're looking at the higher ones. I think that you aren't gonna go wrong, provided that it fits inside your case, unlike me. God bless you, and so am I.